Good day, and welcome to our Power is Within podcast. I'm your host, Chad Smith, and my mission for this podcast is to inspire you to take your power back and to realize that you are the healer that you have been looking for all along. We are capable of healing in mind, in body, and soul. So, before I get into the challenge of the week, I wanted to ask a couple questions. What has been your favorite challenge so far? Has there been a challenge that sparked your interest or helped you to realize that it was something you could benefit from doing and reap the rewards? I would absolutely love to hear from you and hear your shares on this. Please feel free to direct message me on Instagram at Our Power Is Within, or you can share your shares through email, which the link is in the show notes. And if you feel compelled, you can even share on your stories on Instagram and tag me. Any of the above works for me. I would just be so interested in connecting and hearing from each of you. I've also been considering whether or not you all as listeners find value in the weekly challenges and if we should continue them through season 3 or change it up a little or eliminate them altogether. So my opinion is not what matters. It's really about what you want. So once again, reach out and let me know your thoughts. I'd be curious to know how often you do participate in the weekly challenges. Might you prefer them bi-weekly or month-long? What would happen if I incentivized them? Would it be more likely that you would participate at all? The challenges are really for you guys listening. So I'd love to hear your insights. Reach out to me and let me know what you're thinking. And I appreciate you in advance. With that said, just to stick with the current rhythm, I do have a challenge for this week. And that challenge, we're going to name it Back to Nature, to our roots. Can you make a commitment to yourself to spend 5 minutes minimum outside in nature every day? And don't worry, you don't need to drive to some national park or fancy place to call it nature. Just be outdoors near some type of natural element or setting, even if that's just your backyard while you're sitting in your grass, or at least putting your feet into the grass or the soil. Bonus points if you're barefoot, and extra bonus points if you're really present with that 5-minute experience. I challenge you during these 5 minutes to gaze around softly, to notice the colors and textures, notice the sounds, notice the feelings, and whether there's a breeze blowing against your face or the sun shining on your hands, or maybe the texture of a grass blade in between your toes. Just be with nature and all of her glory for a minimum of 5 minutes each day for 1 week straight. And most of all, enjoy her. Now, our guest today is actually back for her 3rd time on the podcast, Dr. Cathleen King. This is the first time I've had a repeat. And every time we get together and have a conversation, it always ends up fun. And I'm as excited to share this chat with you as I was the first 2. If you aren't familiar with Dr. Cathleen King, you will be able to find her links to the previous 2 episodes that we did on the podcast in season 1 and season 2. And there will also be links to her program and community offerings that we will discuss in depth on today's episode. You will find those in the show notes. With that said, let's get to it. All right, I'm very excited today to welcome Dr. Cathleen King back to the podcast for round 3.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I am always excited to get a chance to chat with you. Our conversations are always juicy and fun. So yeah, this is going to be good. Just for everybody listening, if you aren't familiar with Dr. Cathleen King, she was on the show for a part 1 and part 2. I will drop links in the show notes that are direct to each of those episodes. The first time we chatted, we got to hear a lot about her healing story and her journey. And then the last time we chatted, we really dug into this concept of primal trust and what that is in her primal trust program. And today, we're actually going to discuss her newest program and newest addition to her subscription service, which is going to be her level 1 program called Regulate.
Yeah, I'm really excited to bring this forward. I've been working very hard on it for a couple of years now. So it's exciting.
Yes, absolutely. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna actually I'm curious. Will because I mentioned subscription service, so I know that you have an ongoing monthly subscription service where people can access um, the different options that you have, including the Primal Trust program, which is considered a level 2, and then what you call level 3, which is the variety of really amazing classes where there's community support and connection opportunities. So, my guess is this will also be included in that monthly membership, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I have a strong sense of being able to bring all the programs at an affordable rate. So you're not paying for a $300 course here, a $600 course there, a $2,000 course there, which really adds up. And everybody's at different levels. And sometimes they need to kind of go back and forth from different courses. And so my thought was just if I can make them all available at all time as just part of the membership. And that way people can kind of come and go, like they can come in and take a course. And if they need to take a break, that's fine. You can cancel anytime. You can come back in and, pick up at the next level or whatever. So I really wanted flexibility and, to make it financially affordable for people.
That's awesome. Now, say there's somebody who really doesn't want to be a part of the membership because they just really want Regulate and they know that they're not going to partake in the other classes and online offerings at this
Mhm.
time. Do you have an option where somebody can just pay one price just for the program that they're interested in?
We are going to build that in. But honestly, it's more affordable to just pay the monthly membership. The lifetime access will be, significantly more. And literally, you could be a part of the community for a year and still come out ahead by paying the monthly membership. So some people do, they just want to own it for life. And in that way, I price it at a typical course that's, standard. But I think that for people who, have financial issues, doing the membership is by far going to come out ahead. They
Mhm.
don't have to show up to any live class. They can just log in and watch their course and, do it that way.
That makes sense. So then, how long is an ideal amount of time that somebody would spend on the Regulate program specifically?
Yeah. So like I said, we have a 3-leveled program. Regulate is your basic neuroplasticity, somatic toolkit. And really, it's meant to be a whole education on chronic stress and chronic illness. And I recommend that you'd spend at least 2 to 3 months. Regulate it's very comprehensive, although I do have a simplified version. But just to practice getting your nervous system to handle stress, to gain more capacity and more flexibility, you need to spend a few months doing that, regardless of how quickly you can go through the material. And so I'd say a minimum of 2 to 3 months, and working through Regulate before moving on to level 2.
Right. And if I am correct, I believe that I might be wrong, but I believe that the Regulate isn't it going to be the only actual brain retraining program that also includes somatic and bottom up approach as well, integrated?
I'm not sure about that. I know there are some new programs out there that are including vagus nerve exercises, but I don't know what other things they're including. So I don't want to, say we're the only one.
Mhm.
I do believe it is a trend to start including bottom up practices in other people's programs. And I think that that's going to be the case. I think that my original level one program, Creating Calm, was the first program that did brain retraining, somatics, polyvagal theory, vagus nerve that I knew of. I think at this point here in 2022, there are probably a couple of other programs who are starting to implement that. I don't know specifically, but I do believe my program is by far the most comprehensive program out there at this
Mhm.
point.
Okay. Do you feel that people, if they're like, oh, I can't join it right then by that day for the live version, I know sometimes people feel like they'll miss out by not having
Mhm.
the live experience. Um, do you have any, I guess, like support systems in place in the membership
Mhm.
for people to still feel like they're being supported through the recorded version?
Yeah, we actually are bringing in even some newer support. So we've got a few options. If you can't make the live class, just know, I would say 60% of people can't make the live class because they work or whatever. So you're not alone. But we do have different support systems. We have what's now being called Primal Trust peer led journey teams, which is basically like a study group that you can join and meet with. And they're meeting at all different time zones to meet up together, go over the materials together, and work together. And we're also going to have a level one implementation class that's every week, also live. It might even be a couple times a week, I'm not sure yet. So there'll be other live classes where you can show up and we'll go over that module and go over some implementation that'll be taught by one of my other mentors. And then we also, in addition, we have a lot of daily classes to help with brain body neural retraining that are live, that are about 20 minutes long, that you can just drop into, where you'll learn a lot of the tools from level one and go over them in a community setting. So, multiple options to go through the process and be supported.
Will there be any type of like structure or daily kind of homework that
Mhm.
you'll encourage people to partake in for that consistency and repetition?
Yeah. So the other thing I learned from a first time of doing level one and level two is that people do need a lot more structure and understanding of what tool to use when and what exactly should I be doing. And so I've learned a lot of what I did wrong the first couple of years. So this new program is very detailed in, okay, after you're at module two now, here's exactly what you should be doing every day. Oh, you're at module three. Now here's exactly what you should be doing every day. Here's what it looks like. And then the emails that I'll be sending out will also be a reminder of, here's what you need to be focusing on today. Here's what you need to be focusing on at this level. So people should not have confusion of what neural retraining should look like for them when they go through the program this time.
Okay. And how long, I know you said an ideal time frame would be like a minimum of 2 to 3 months to gain that capacity. How long will you have the live classes before they're kind of then left to continue the structure on their own?
Yeah. So we're going to go through the Regulate program module by module 7 weeks in a row because there's 7 modules in the program. So there'll be 7 live classes going through the level one simplified. Ongoing though, I will have level one live Q&As like I already do bi-weekly. So there's ongoing support if you missed the live class section.
Gotcha. And that's 7 weeks for the simple and the comprehensive version?
Comprehensive will not be live. It's just available for you to watch at your leisure. Like that class, the comprehensive would be something you just do on your own. And it's just ongoing. Obviously, it's all available. But the live is starting November 1st and I think ending December 13th of 2022.
Okay. And so I know we're kind of talking about how this is a really great starting point for people, um, especially before they go and do Primal Trust, which is your level two program.
Mhm.
Now, what would you say if somebody did Primal Trust level two, but they're curious about Regulate, or maybe they did feel like Primal Trust was a lot. I'm just
Mhm.
wondering, I guess, if Regulate's also good for even seasoned people who've done programs in the past.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I will tell you, I putting this program together was so good for me. I literally took myself through level one as I'm creating this program, and it just really solidified my foundation of self responsibility, my somatic awareness. I think, in fact, I'd say my process is more of a spiral type process rather than linear, where, you go through level one, you get a certain capacity, you go into level two, and you do this inner journey. And then sometimes returning back to level one and deepening that nervous system capacity, and then going into level two again in an inner journey. And I do have people that have now gone through Primal Trust level one, level two, 3 times. And they're like, this is amazing. I just get more and more freedom. And it's not even about their health anymore. It's about their relationships or whatever. So that's the first thing I would say is absolutely this program that I just put out, it's revolutionary. There is nothing like this. The new level one program, I bring in cell danger response and really understanding healing at the mitochondrial level and polyvagal theory and all these things that are not in any other program right now. So you're going to really, really become a master of your nervous system. And I think that it's beneficial for anyone. The other thing I'd say for those who have done level two and found it really overwhelming, like I said, I learned what I did wrong. I learned that people needed more specific guidance of exactly what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. So I think level one will help give that. And that being said, I'm also going to be doing a new level two simplified version coming 2023. So I realize that, again, everybody's at a different place. Some people love the meat and potatoes. Some people just want a light appetizer of Primal Trust, and they need to go through it differently. So yeah, that's what I'd say about that.
Okay. Yeah, because you generally do really encourage anybody who's interested in Primal Trust to have at least done some type of brain retraining, nervous system regulation program prior to Primal Trust, correct?
Yeah, and what I've learned is that a lot of people came into level two with very little self regulation capacity. And so I'm actually going to make it a requirement that you've got to have actually done my Regulate program, because people will be like, well, I did DNRS or I did this, and I'm sorry, but it's just not adequate for the inner work, because you have to be able to presence your body. You have to have some basic somatic and vagal nerve understanding to do some of this deeper inner work. So I will be requiring, I mean, it's available. You can go into the membership and take anything, but I'm going to require that they do go through Regulate, because I just found too many people were not prepared to go do that inner work. They didn't have enough nervous system regulation capacity to, meet the wounded parts inside of them.
Right. That makes so much sense. And if you want them to be able to get the most out of the experience, they've got to come
Mhm.
in prepared for it.
Right, right. Or they were like rushing through it. That's another thing. People rush through the process of inner healing, and you just cannot rush the process, which is why I've created this in a membership where you can kind of come and go at your rate or stay in. I mean, ideally, I hope that you stay involved and, really getting part of the community where we can, help you through the process at a rate, at a pace that's better for you.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because in the chronic community, we all know we have what is it called? The term a perfect storm, kind of
Hmm.
like where everything unfolds and not a good way.
Hmm.
But yet though we can often recognize when we might have experienced a quote unquote perfect storm, the reality is we didn't get sick overnight. Even though it can sometimes feel that way, we didn't get sick overnight. So we can't rush healing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
a journey for sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, the other thing, can I just mention this? I have also completely redone my platform. It's actually going to launch next week, meaning for those of you who came in and you found my platform overwhelming, confusing, well, I hear you and I understand. And the reason why that happened is we expanded so quickly in such a short time that the technology of my platform couldn't keep up with the amount of courses and the different levels. Like, Primal Trust is not just a simple course. Like, you are not just buying a brain retraining course, you are buying a platform that's got over 300 hours of training and live classes. So we just restructured our entire platform where it's so much easier. You enter in, you know exactly where to go. There's an onboarding process. You start here. And I think that's going to help a lot because people were coming in and they were getting stressed with all of this material and they, it was just too much for them. So I just want to make that plug that if you came in before and the platform was overwhelming, it's been completely gutted, redesigned. It looks beautiful. And I think you'll find a totally different experience. And that being said, you are joining a platform that is comprehensive. It's multi-layered. And, to just know that, to focus on the level you're at, focus on level 1 when you come in, ignore the level 2 and level 3 options until you're ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited to see that. And you're going to have different forums now too, correct? Like there's more
Yeah.
organized forums to support people in different topics and
Yeah, that was the other thing. People were triggered because they join in and there was just one forum. And so there'd be level 2, level 3 topics. And when you first come in, some of those topics are just too much for the nervous system. So we split it up so that there's a level 1 forum, a level 2 forum, a level 3 forum. There's sub forums for different groups. So I think it's really going to help a lot of the issues that I faced with having so much expansion so quick. And I hope that people that may have gotten a little overwhelmed or it's too much for them, give this another chance because I think you'll find a very different experience.
mm-hmm. That's awesome. So speaking of not rushing healing, you said, come in to regulate, do it for a minimum of like 2 to 3 months. But now all of these are truly intended to be at our own pace. So if we actually want to slow track that and like maybe, you said there's some people who might be working full time, they have children, they have a busy life, maybe they can't dedicate as much time every day towards it.
Mm-hmm.
They have the capacity and ability to just move more slowly at their own pace rather than rushing through, correct?
Right. Absolutely. Everything is, like I said, it's recorded and you just watch the modules at your own pace. I mean, maybe you get through 2 modules a month. I mean, these modules are actually very comprehensive. I mean, module 1 is 3 hours alone, just to give you some understanding here. So you might need to go through it slower and take your time. And the other thing is, I actually don't even get into the brain retraining until module 4. So, I'm giving people a lot of solid fundamental skills before they challenge their limbic system. So it's actually set up very differently than other programs, and I think they'll like it. And that we're easing our way into the nervous system rather than like, getting right into brain retraining. So yeah, I think that's what sets this program apart.
Mm-hmm. So now, say somebody comes in, this is something that is new for them. They've still been out there kind of in the Google world, exploring and searching and figuring out
Mhm.
what is the right fit for them. And they join Regulate, but they learned a little bit about Primal Trust, right? And they're curious and they're intrigued, and it's something they eventually want to do. What would be some key indicators for them to be able to discern that they're actually ready for that next step rather than just being like, oh, I'm at 3 months, I'm ready?
You mean ready to go into the level 2?
Yeah. Like, how can somebody
Yeah.
be able to discern if they're
Yeah.
actually ready?
Great question. So part of Regulate level 1 is there's a whole module on trauma, actually on trauma and breath work right near the end. And in that module, I really explain what we have to deal with when we're working with our trauma and what that's like, and even some tools and processes. And I think that once you've gotten through that module, you're going to know like, okay, I am ready to go into this world of inner healing, of feeling the deeper layers in me. And I think that's what's missing from so many programs. They're not trauma informed, and people don't have an understanding of what they're going to have to face and sit with and be with to work on their inner world. So in Regulate, I give you a very thorough understanding of what the journey is like. So I'm really trying to set people up to be self-discerning of, okay, I can presence some of these feelings. Now I might need a little help to go deeper. But as soon as you can start presencing some of the fear, the shame, the anger, which you learn how to do in the level 1 process, I think you're ready for the inner journey. The other thing is that this program is set up to really educate you, to prepare you for level 2. So that a lot of level 2 is not a surprise. I teach people about their adult mean personality in level 1. I teach them about having inner wounding and unconscious conflicts that need to come forward. So they know what's going to be asked of them in level 2, and they can be more discerning, like I said, of if that's ready, if that's right for them to start going on that journey.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Oh, I love it. Since we are kind of talking about primal trust, and maybe there are people listening who aren't familiar with primal trust and they haven't listened to the second episode that we did together, could we
Mhm.
actually address the primal trust options? And could you break down a little bit of the nuances and the differences
Yeah.
between the simple and comprehensive?
Sure. So, level 2, I've called the Primal Trust Mentorship, which is the inner work. And what is the inner work? It's about going inside of us and feeling what's actually there and meeting parts of our identity that may have some wounding, which you might hear of called the inner child or the protector and inner critic. And those are terms that we use. So, level 2 is basically a type of parts work, which is coined by internal family systems. But it's about finding the parts of us who have protective patterns run. So maybe we're a pleaser or a perfectionist, or we're angry and controlling, or we tend to freeze. So we're going to find those aspects of our psyche and begin to unravel them by meeting them with a part of us called our adult main personality. And that's the focus of level 2. We focus on building a part of us called our inner adult main personality. And what is that? That's a whole brain state where our limbic system is not running the show. Our protective patterning is not running the show. Our adult main personality is the self regulated inner adult that maybe we craved when we were a child, or it's the part of us that has the capacity to be stressed and triggered, but to be able to respond from a higher and better place. So we're developing this adult main personality. We're meeting scared parts of us, and we're also discovering our true self. We get in touch with what we value. I challenge you to find ways to start living your values. And in that challenge, our protection strategies, they tend to naturally come forward. So I don't have people look overtly for their trauma, and I don't have them look overtly for their inner wounding, but rather I create a setup in their brain to choose to start living. And whatever the unconscious resistance is to living, it will naturally come forward. And I teach them how to meet that. So, this is often also called the hero's journey, as coined by Joseph Campbell. And I just have found a way using neuroscience to take people through that hero's journey and to teach them that common algorithm that we have to go through for deep inner healing.
That's awesome. I've never heard you explain it all that way. It's
Me either. I don't think I've ever explained it that way.
Well,
But
it's
that's
really
what it
fun.
is.
I'm like, that's so awesome. And okay, so that's kind of the premise. So then what would be the difference between the two levels of that?
Yeah. So the simplified is we're going to take there's 9 modules, and we'll just go over the nuts and bolts. And the simplified, I'm not going to ask you to do as much. I'm not going to explain as comprehensive topics. I'm going to just give it to you. It's just like skimming the surface, but enough where you start looking and you start going on that journey. And we're just maybe working and unpacking some of the easier layers to work with. So it'll just be a lot less deep dive comprehension and a little bit more like, okay, this week, here's what I'd like you to focus on, and just make it more digestible for people that don't want to do the deep dive. Some people do, and some people, actually, a lot of people loved how comprehensive level 2 is, and it was rich and delicious to them. And there were some that was like, I can't go here yet. It's just too much, or I don't even understand these kind of topics because going inward is just very unfamiliar for them. So I needed to find a way to, give them that bridge and to have 2 options so that I'm able to be more inclusive in Primal Trust. And that's really my biggest aim is I don't want an exclusive program where if you don't have a certain level of brain function or conscious understanding, it's just not for you. I really want to make this inclusive for all levels.
Right. And you said that's going to come out in 2023.
Yeah. So the next Primal Trust, I'm not teaching a comprehensive version at all. I'm just going to do the simplified, and the comprehensive, you can watch the recordings from 2022.
Mm-hmm. Okay. With the Primal Trust, either the simplified or the comprehensive, it might be the same, it might be different. In general, what kind of time frame do you feel is going to be most supportive for somebody to dedicate every day towards doing the work?
Yeah. So for simplified, I want to keep it simple. So maybe 15 minutes. Comprehensive, I usually generally say an hour, where you're dedicating an hour a day to your self-care. And simplified, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more lifestyle stuff. So it might be just little things that you're focusing on throughout the day, or, maybe a little journaling in the morning, or a couple practices. So I haven't even gotten to the simplified level 2 yet, so I can't tell you exactly, but my idea is just to make it more livable, less overwhelming, for people that just don't have the time to dedicate. But I will say, if you have the time, I think it's totally in your benefit to go through the comprehensive of both level 1 and level 2. I mean, truly, the comprehensive I've been working on for years. I've been changing them. So it's yeah, it's just the goal is that you are the master of your own nervous system, meaning you are able to consciously choose how you respond even when you're stressed. And I'm trying to give every tool and understanding that I can possibly bring to help people be able to do this.
Right. Yeah, and the level 2 comprehensive primal trust that will now be available for people to do at their own pace on video, while it was initially ran live in, like, what was it, 6 months or so?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, we can jump on in and take our time. So
Yeah.
we can, do module 1 in a 3 or 4 weeks rather than
Yeah.
like 1 or 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah. And what I've seen be really successful is some people just literally watch it and they don't do any of it. They watch it the first time through. They just watch the whole thing, like just to give their brain and nervous system an understanding. And then they go through again and then they implement the homework and the practices. And I think that's a really excellent way of going through the process as well.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be.
Same thing with regulate. I mean, maybe you just watch the whole thing and you just become familiar and then you go through again. I mean, you can do this in different ways.
Right. And as far as regulate, what do you think is an ideal amount of time to dedicate to your practice and self-care daily?
Yeah. So for comprehensive, the process I have is about an hour, maybe even up to an hour and 15 minutes daily for getting through all of the processes, which include functional neurology, eye exercises, vagal toning, brain retraining, and somatic. So you're getting all of that in this particular way I present it. And that's as you get into the program. And that's not even until you get to probably module 4. So a month in, the first month, it's actually not that much at all. So I ease you into it. And that's the comprehensive. And the simplified version, like I said, I'll probably try to keep it 15 to 20 minutes. However, the research shows spending an hour a day on your neuroplasticity has incredible results. So if you can find a way to do that, it is in your benefit. But I bring a lot of different options to neuroplasticity. In fact, even my new brain retraining program has 5 different options, one of them that doesn't require any visualization. So, I'm trying to make this accessible for everybody.
hmm Yeah, because some people just don't get down with the visualizations.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that being said, I also want to say that if you've taken Creating Calm, which was my original level 1, this is totally different. There are some pieces to Creating Calm, but it's like 10 times the program and a totally different way of bringing people through it. So it's not going to look like the same thing at all.
So yeah, so if they've done that, they're still going to find value and regulate immensely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not even comparable to Creating Calm was me just trying some things out and seeing how they worked, and it was my beta test, and I learned a lot about what works and what doesn't. And what doesn't is they need more organization, more specific, and a much more gradual process of working into brain retraining so that there's less resistance by the time they get to that process.
Do you teach and have people work with exposure therapy in regulate?
Yeah, I have a whole lesson on how to do that for different types of exposure. It's under the brain retraining module. I work with a lot of, um, in the module, I teach a lot about exposure training and working with intrusive images and all sorts of the things, the hangups that can come. But more importantly, in the entire Regulate program, I really help people to understand setbacks, resistance, and to have a more clear expectation that the ride is bumpy, why it's bumpy, how to deal with it, because that's another thing I see missing in a lot of programs. People need to learn how to be their own coach. They need to be able to have a full understanding of like, oh, this is what's happening right now. This is why I'm having increased symptoms. Obviously, as you know, with the German New Medicine theory, that's a big part of what you study, Chasmith. And I bring in a lot of those principles into the program so people can be more self-aware of, oh, this is why this might be hard right now. And so, I guess that's a little tangent to exposure training, but I just wanted to bring that up.
No, I'm so glad you did because it's really so true. I mean, speaking from my own personal experience, many of the programs, like in the experiences I had initially, it very much lacked all of that information. So
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of just like going in blind to it. And then you have these things and stuff come up and and it's almost in a sense, it can kind of scare you more because you don't you're not expecting it. You weren't warned. You're not told how to manage it or deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You think something's wrong with you and you're not normal. And well, the name of my podcast, Our Power is Within, I'm all about helping people to take their personal power back. So any program that will put the power back in their own hands. And I love how you said, like, help them to be their own coach because, that's where the power is at.
Yeah, and that is, like I said, my aim is people to become self-responsible, self-regulated adults. And part of that is having all the knowledge and understanding that they can coach themselves, they can soothe themselves, they can develop primal trust. When you understand why your body might be reacting like it is, you can find innate safety even if you're having symptoms, which is the whole theme of my platform, Primal Trust. And that's really what helped me. And I really want to give that knowledge and understanding to my audience because I think it was totally missing in my own journey of healing.
What, in regards, we kind of talked a little bit about your platform already and how you're going to be revamping that and launching the new live version in a week, which will be, do you know the date that will be, the new
I don't
version?
know, sometime next week as soon as we test all the bugs.
Okay. Okay. So just to give anyone who's listening an idea, we're talking about sometime around the week that this interview launches. So sometime around the week of the 17th, potentially
Yeah.
through the following Monday.
Yeah.
Um, what what can people really, I mean, we kind of talked about like the forums and that's going to be more organized. And you mentioned a little bit on the classes, but what else can people expect from that level 3 ongoing?
Yeah. So the whole idea eventually is that you are involved in a community of people who are interested in transformation and self growth, and you have that support alongside of you. So, we actually have, it's not just Dr. Kat's community. I have a whole team of people helping to lead others. And so we actually have a lot of specialty classes. Like maybe you want to learn how to implement neuroplasticity as it relates to parenting or going back to work or relationships. So we have some subgroups called affinity groups, which is basically where, maybe you've done brain retraining and other things, but you really just want a group that wants to talk about parenting and how you use these tools. Well, you can meet up with that group and it's live and really create connections that way and be guided. So we have these extra guided specialty groups, but we also just have general classes from me and from other mentors where you just receive mentoring in general on self-regulation and transformation. And then we have other fun support classes like sound healing and somatics. And we even have daily classes called Brain Body Neural Reset, which is daily help with your nervous system. So this level 3 is actually it just means like community involvement. And I also allow people to teach on my platform. So maybe you're a coach and you've got something really cool that you're really great at. I allow people to teach and to share their gifts with the community to have exposure, but also to bring value to the community. So, there's just so much more than just a bunch of classes and courses in Primal Trust. It's really, really multi-layered. And as you get involved and you see like, gosh, I've got forums, I've got live mentoring, I've got these subgroups, I've got, study groups. There's just ideally, you'd have a way to feel supported every single day, whether it's a live class, a recorded class, a study group, that you don't have to go any day of the week without support. I mean, we literally have live classes at least once to twice a day. So you're not alone. You're not alone in the journey.
That's awesome. Yes, it takes a team sometimes,
Mhm.
because this is definitely one journey that we can feel very alone with sometimes, but finding community is huge. Is there anything I haven't asked you yet or that I'm missing that you want to talk about regarding Regulate, Primal Trust, level 1, level 2, level 3, all of the above?
Oh gosh, it's been a really great interview. I think I just want people to understand that my goal is to have a one-stop place where all the learning is in one platform, and you're not having to pay thousands of dollars for this course and that course, and that you're going to get options for live sessions to work through things. And you also have the polyvagal theory and brain retraining and somatics and vagus nerve, that it's all here. And that um, i'm always implementing new change and doing new iterations. Like, you're going to get the latest of the latest in my program. I don't just put up a course and leave it there to just continue to make money off from. I'm always updating stuff. I want it to be the best, most recent knowledge, the most recent understanding. And I think the way, for example, I put through Regulate together, it's very different. We're really understanding cell danger response as it relates to neuroplasticity and understanding polyvagal theory, so that you have a very keen awareness of your nervous system and why you're doing what you're doing. And I think it's really phenomenal what we're putting together, even as a community. Like, there's really nothing like it, where you can have this much support. So obviously I'm biased, and I do think there's a lot of wonderful programs out there, and I really appreciate that as well. And I don't want to say, what mine's better than the others. And I think that the truth is that you need to find a person who resonates with you to learn from. And it might not be me, but it might be one of my mentors, and it might be one of my other leaders, or it might be another program. And I totally support that. But I just want to, give the plug that my goal this last year has been to learn what works and what doesn't. And it is my personal intention to make this process as easy and inclusive as I can for everybody.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And my final question that I ask everybody: if you could only choose one message to share with the world for the rest of your life, what would that message be?
The healing that you seek is already available inside of you. At some level, all of us have a sense of separation, of not matter, of not being enough, of not worthy enough. That's our core wounding driving our nervous system. And deep inside of you is a presence. It's a presence that is a loving witness of you. And it can be a journey to find that presence. But that presence is the mother, the father, the best friend that you've sought your whole life. And my aim is that I provide tools to help people be able to discover that presence within them, that for me has been so healing on so many levels. The moments I've touched that sacred space inside of me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for joining me for part 3.
Thank you for letting me blab about myself and my program. I feel a little bit like just talking about how this is, but I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to share what's so important to me, Chaz. So thank you for having me on here. It means a lot.
It's always a pleasure. And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. As always, my goal is for you, the listener, to find value in the information shared in this podcast. If you have found value in any episode and you have yet to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, please take 2 minutes of your time to drop a few lines today. It really does help me get the message of healing and possibility out into the universe. Also, I have a link in the bottom of the show notes to a virtual tip jar for you to support future episodes if you feel called to do so. And lastly, I love requests. So, do you have a guest that you would love to hear speak on this show that you want to recommend? Or maybe you just want to recommend a specific topic Or maybe you have a story that you want to share. If so, find that email address in the show notes and drop a line. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, make this week great.